My name is Danielle Hanson. I'm a poet living in Atlanta, Georgia. I spend my time reading poetry and writing poetry. Um, I also edit for a journal and for a publisher that comes out with other people's books of poetry. And all my work has to do with increasing the amount of wonder in the world. I believe that art at its best surprises people and delights people and makes people happy. And so I try to do my part in that by writing kind of silly little poems, actually. So I'm going to read you a few, and then I'm going to give you an assignment to write one of your own. The first poem I'm going to read, you know how when there's a puddle of water after rain and you can kind of see the houses and the buildings reflected in it because it's like acting as a mirror. So I'm picturing that, and then when something disturbs the puddle, all those images go away, but then when the puddle becomes still again, the images come back. The other thing you need to know in this poem is who the god Prometheus is. He's a Greek god. He brought fire down to humans, and then the other gods got mad at him for sharing fire because that was their secret little thing. And so they chained him up to a rock, and every day an eagle shows up and eats his liver and flies off, and then the liver magically regrows, and the eagle comes back the next day, eats his liver, and this goes on forever. The bird eats a building. The bird lands in a puddle, instantly shattering the reflection of a building, which she eats in pieces like a cracker crushed in soup. She dips her wings into pavement, throws her head backwards, gargles a copier before flying away, leaving the puddle to grow a skyscraper, like Prometheus developing a new liver each night, the price for stealing fire. I like writing about birds. I think that because they can be on the ground, or they can be in the air, and they can be small and cute and beautiful, or they can be a little bit scary. If you've ever been bit by an emu, you know that it's kind of scary. So there's a lot there to play around with. There is something that's common to us, but you can have them do things that aren't so common. So in this next poem, I play around with the idea of someone walking their bird, like they would for a dog. And so it starts off kind of weird, but after you get used to that idea of someone walking a bird like they would a dog, then everything else follows kind of logically. The leash is attached to a harness because the bird once pulled so hard she tore a hole through the air, leaving the man with a mess he could only patch over with his breath, taping the edges in an awkward manner. The city council gave him a ticket for using duct tape on the sky. And what does the bird think of all this? She dreams constantly of the other side of sky. So at the end, you had this mess and how humans would deal with that mess. If someone broke the sky, we'd be kind of angry with them and want them to make it right, and if they did a bad job patching it, we'd be pretty annoyed with them. But the bird in all of this, instead of being annoyed that the sky's broken, the bird is really interested in what happened on the other side of that sky. Homesick. I was just calling to tell you my socks don't match today. The coffee maker's brewing melancholy, and it's cold here. I was just calling to tell you the Turks conquered Europe with tulips. I'm sending you some next week. I was just calling to tell you longing looked in my window while I slept. This morning, I cleaned his face print from the glass. I was just calling to tell you when all my being took flight, 1,000 moths thought of you. I have a couple more I want to share. So for this next one, I'm a gardener, and so every spring these little caterpillars start eating my cabbages and my broccoli, and you can just go out there, and the best way to get rid of them, you can spray them with chemicals, but that's only so effective. They'll just be back the next day. The best thing to do is to cut down their numbers by finding them. They're not very fast, and killing them. And you pick them by hand. And so for this next poem, I kind of played with the idea of what would you do if you had an infestation of something else. And so I decided the angels would be a really absurd thing to have an infestation of, having too many angels hanging out. A guide to ridding oneself of an infestation of angels. Hand-picking is best. A gentle squeeze between forefinger and thumb. Kind of like them being squishy and juicy. Okay, so that's the poems I wanted to share with you reading. You might notice that none of them rhymed. They didn't have a kind of rhythm like some of the ones you've probably read before. So what then does it mean that it's a poem? I think that a poem is something that focuses attention on something small. It could be a little something that happened, an event, in which case it could be a little bit of a story. But it could also be a feeling that someone had, or something that you just want to look at and describe. But that you focus attention onto something and you make it special because of the attention that you're giving it. I also think it's a way that poetry is a way to play with language, which is where you get the things like the rhyme and the rhythm sometimes. And it can be a way to play with the world around us, which is what I really like to do. I like to think of a situation that uses stuff around me, but that isn't reality, and kind of explore that idea. So that's what I'm going to assign for you guys today. Your assignment is to think of something that is impossible. And I've had this assignment before in some high school classes I've taught, and I've had people write poems about how to walk to the moon, or how to train your unicorn to sit. So something that kind of sounds like for the unicorn things, clearly someone's thinking about a dog, but then they substitute in a unicorn and it becomes impossible. When you're thinking of walking to the moon, you might think about walking across a bridge, or you might think about something else that's normal. But instead, it's to something impossible, like to the moon. So once you come up with your situation of something that can't be done, you're going to write a how-to poem on how to do it. You're going to explain to someone. You're going to take it very seriously after that. The idea is going to be silly, and then you're going to become serious and actually explain how it could happen. Don't just make it an easy, wave your magic wand and it happens. If you're walking to the moon, maybe you have to build a bridge, but if you build a bridge, what does it have to be made out of? Probably not wood, but maybe out of firefly wings or something. Maybe that works better. And why would that be the case? Well, maybe because they're lighter, or maybe they have a little bit of the firefly light in them, so that they somehow, that attracts to the moon. You know, the light from the moon and the light from the wings somehow have something to do with why that works. But come up with a plan. I'm going to read you one of mine, and of course it involves a bird, because I'm reading you a lot of bird poems today. So, how to build a bird. Start with a balloon inflated with sky. Filter out the clouds. Moisture adds weight. Water always seeks the ground. Attach leaves for feathers, ginkgo wings, elm tail. It is tempting to use sticks for feet, but only ones picked fresh from the highest branches. Remember, this is the golem of sky. The beak should be a sprouting seed of grass. And how does it fly? Whisper to it, the earth is full of eyes. So at the end there, you scare your creature into flying. So good luck with it. I hope it goes well. Of course, I'm not your teacher, so if your teacher told you to watch this, you might want to check with her and make sure she wants you to do the writing assignment as well. But I hope everything's going well with you and that your classes are going well. And have a good day.